Remembers it and what it means to him all these years later. All that and more in this hour of Get Up, which starts with this on the Cowboys, where it has been quite an offseason. Last Monday, they agreed to a 5-year, $100 million deal with Amari Cooper. Josina Anderson reporting he got $60 million of that guaranteed. But that was the good news. The bad news, the Cowboys lose one of their top defenders as cornerback Byron Jones agrees to an $82 million deal with the Dolphins. That makes him the highest paid corner in the league. So he's gone. Monday, 29-year-old center Travis Frederick, an incredibly important part of their offensive line, announced his retirement. He missed all of 2018 due to an autoimmune disease. He was a Pro Bowler last year. Then, after placing the exclusive franchise tag on Dak Prescott, the Cowboys have now resumed contract negotiations with him. Remember, the two sides have till July 15th to work out a long-term deal. And it is our Ed Werders who is reporting that was, and let us bring Ed in live. First and foremost, it is good to see you, my friend. And let's get to this business here. What is the latest on the talks between Dallas and Dak?
Well, you know, Greeny, they've been at an impasse for a long time. This has been a priority for both the Cowboys and Dak Prescott to negotiate successfully a long-term deal to secure the quarterback. And more importantly, to know, for the Cowboys to know as they go through these latter stages of free agency where they tend to be more active, to know what his salary cap number is going to be. And that's a consequence right now of not having him under contract. The franchise tag being applied to the Cowboys cap right now is $26.8 million. They know it's going to be higher than that, but they don't know how much higher. That's a real impediment to them trying to, sign free agent players, preparing for the upcoming draft. So I think it's really significant that for the first time since they franchise tagged Dak Prescott last week, and he's the only quarterback in their history that they've ever used this limitation on, that it's significant that they finally reached out and began negotiations again last night. The Cowboys apparently initiating that conversation and may be willing now to break the biggest part of the impasse, which is how long a contract is this going to be?
And so that's sort of the next question here, and I please forgive the frustration in my voice, but why is this taking so long? Is the years what's holding it up? What is it both sides want?
Yeah, I think it's length of contract. Chris Mortensen reported last week for ESPN that Dak Prescott's side, Todd France's agent, they want a 4-year deal because they know there's going to be a new TV contract and a lot of new money coming into the NFL teams in the next 2 years, and that the salary cap's going to go up exponentially, and he wants to be able to take advantage of that when he finishes his next contract with the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have a history of preferring to do 5- and 6-year contracts so they can spread the salary cap signing bonus over a greater number of years, thereby lessening the impact in the early years of the deal. For example, you mentioned the Amari Cooper deal. Well, they signed Amari Cooper to a 5-year, $100 million contract. But this year, his number for the salary cap, Greeny, is only $12 million. Every other year going forward, it's $22 million. And so they want to have the flexibility to do that same thing with Dak Prescott's contract.
All right, we'll see if they can figure this thing out. Ed Werder, you stay safe, my friend, and it's great to see you. And we'll continue to come down there as this continues to develop. Meanwhile, I've got Marcus Spears with me this morning, and we are pleased to welcome in Louis Riddick, who'll be with us for this hour. And Louis, it is great to have you. And just as you listen to Ed talk there, again, with your history in front offices, how does this thing get done? Because, candidly, they need to move forward, and they need to get this thing worked out. How does this thing get worked out?
Yeah, it's a situation here where, quite honestly, unless Dak is willing to relent and he's willing to give them, what they want and make some concessions as far as the number of years on the contract, look, he's the one who has leverage right now, and it's always about timing and leverage. And players, when they have the opportunity to exercise it, they're going to exercise it. He knows that Dallas right now is in between a rock and a hard place as far as trying to get this done because, as Ed laid out, look, if they put him under, if they just kind of have to keep carrying him on the franchise tag, that absolutely just hamstrings them as far as their planning both this year and in subsequent years as far as signing players. So really it's going to be about how much money are they willing to boost up maybe his average yearly salary? Are they willing to boost, the signing bonus? And then he will go ahead and add on another year in order to give them some salary cap relief in the short term. It's all going to be about give and take. And right now it doesn't sound like Dak, because of the fact that he knows that he has leverage and he has timing on his side and the situation is such that they need him there, it doesn't sound like he's willing to do that right now. So I mean, the contract negotiations ultimately are always about both sides giving in and not necessarily getting everything that they want. So somebody walks away not getting everything. But right now, Dak doesn't seem like he's willing to do so, and that's why we are where we are.
Marcus, you're there in Dallas. You're a former Cowboy, and you live there day in, day out. I just have a second here because I want to get to other things. In your mind, is there any way this doesn't get worked out, that he winds up playing this season on the franchise tag?
To me, there's no way this doesn't get worked out because, first of all, to Lou's point, like for future terms, what are you going to do if Dak plays a franchise tag this year and decides to walk or decides even not to sign this franchise tag with a new head coach? I think the Travis Frederick retirement puts even more pressure on this organization to get it done as well, having Dak back there and obviously getting him in the camp so Mike McCarthy and they can get this offense installed. There's a lot of outlying factors besides the contract. New things around Dallas. I'm being around here. Like, they're trying to recourse and get this football team into the playoffs and possibly win the Super Bowl. I.e. the hiring of Mike McCarthy, but also the signing of a lot of these guys. Look, Dontari Poe just signed. Obviously, you look at DeMarcus Lawrence and what they were able to do last year. Everybody talks about the Byron Jones moves. The Cowboys are not done in free agency either. So to Ed's point, to Lou's point, getting this done with Dak is a must. It's 100% must that they get this done if they're going to move forward in their plan of getting this done.
All right, I want to go to the next thing here, but we'll talk more about this as it continues to develop. I want to go to the draft stuff here. So Mel Kiper Jr., he's on with us the other day.
Yeah, look, I still think it's going to be Derek Carr. And I know, conventional wisdom says that maybe Marcus Mariota has a Ryan Tannehill type of scenario play itself out, but I still believe Derek Carr is going to be one of those people who's going to rise to the challenge here. There's a lot of speculation surrounding him, especially what Marcus is signing, but Derek is a great quarterback. I think he's someone who's going to rise to the challenge. He's someone who, John, maybe looking for a replacement in the long term, but I still think he's going to be a guy who lasts the 2020 season as a starter in Oakland.
How about
Las Vegas?
It's right. You get used to that. New England, Week 8. Who's the quarterback?
In New England, I still think it's going to be Jarrett Stidham. Look, this is a guy who I believe that Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick really do believe in. He's someone who they have put a lot of time into, someone who they believe at this point in his career. He's right where Jimmy Garoppolo was on the comparable developmental stage. I think they will still maybe look to add a veteran or look to add some more competition, to go along with Brian Hoyer, but I think he'll be the starter.
We'll talk more about him later. Meanwhile, Marcus, how about the Chargers, the LA Chargers? Who's their quarterback Week 8?
Tyrod Taylor will still be the starting quarterback, and I believe Anthony Lynn has a lot of confidence in Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, he was in Cleveland, played well, suffered an injury. Baker Mayfield came in. This type of offense that they want to run, this is a quarterback that's very athletic. Tyrod Taylor will be the starter.
All right, and that means Cam Newton won't be. That's one of the places we've talked about him possibly going. We all understand all that he accomplished in Carolina. But now he's a free agent. Yesterday, Stephen A. Smith had some pretty strong comments about the way the Panthers moved on from him. Let's listen to Steve.
Carolina Panthers screwed over Cam Newton in terms of the timing in which they let him go. If you had let him go, you make this decision, you let him go weeks ago, then there would have been a plethora of teams available for him. But the fact that they waited this long to release him, they screwed him over. Nobody's mentioning that, so I will.
Really interesting. And Louis Riddick, I want to start with you because of your unique position as having been a player and having been a member of a front office who has to make these kinds of decisions. Does a franchise owe anything to a player who has done as much for it as, for example, Cam Newton has for the Carolina Panthers?
Technically, no, they don't. It's business. It's nothing personal. And look, I get it from both sides, okay? Because as a player, I'd be ticked off. I could totally see where Stephen A. is coming from. And if I was Cam Newton, I'd feel the same way, especially given everything that I have done for your organization and everything I have sacrificed for your organization, everything I've tried to play through for the organization. But I can just tell you this, organizations look at it like this. Until we have the next best alternative in-house and under contract, or until we have an agreement with someone who we feel is a reasonable and sensible replacement, we're not going to do anything in the best interest of you. We're going to do everything to protect the club. And that sounds harsh and that sounds cold, but that's exactly what they did. Would it have been good for Cam had he been let go earlier, considering the fact that we all thought that this is where it was heading? Of course it would. Of course it'd be nice for them to be able to do that and afford him that kind of respect. But that's oftentimes not how this game works. It's not how this business works, and it stinks. It stinks for players in that regard. And as an ex-player, again, that side of it really does bother me. But I understand how all NFL front offices work. I understand how the business is conducted. So we shouldn't be surprised by this.
What do you think, Marcus? Does the team owe him more than they gave him?
I thought they owed him to let him go as fast as possible. And obviously, I tell you, man, when people in organizations come out, like Tepper came out and made the statement about Cam and his injury, that lets you know that he already knew Cam Newton would not be the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. And I get it if you're playing coy, but you look at the moves that they made, none of those to me would have been affected by you letting Cam go early. Teddy Bridgewater would have still been available in free agency for you to go out and get him if you would have released Cam. You traded away Kyle Allen, obviously, in that situation. Like, you knew what you wanted to do and what the plan was, and I get it. I understand what Lou is saying. You want to try to reserve possibly if you have a piece that you need to hold on to. But in this particular situation, you knew you were getting rid of Cam based on what your owner said. Obviously, Matt Rule came out and said, I would love to coach Cam. You wanting to coach Cam doesn't have a damn thing to do with you wanting to keep Cam. And then you still decided to sign Teddy Bridgewater to a 3-year deal, which you would have been able to do anyway, like I said before. So I don't see any reason that they should have held on to Cam this long without him having an opportunity to go have a physical possibly before all of this stuff started.
Marcus, I can give you a reason. There's another reason. There was a team in their division that didn't have a quarterback, and until they signed Tom Brady, the Buccaneers might have needed him. And I will take you back to 2008. The New York Jets signed Brett Favre during training camp, during the preseason. They decided to do the right thing by Chad Pennington, who had been their quarterback for a long time and had been a good soldier. So they immediately released him. He signed with the Dolphins in their division. He became the comeback player of the year that year and beat the Jets in the last game of the season to win the division and make the playoffs. Lewis, that's another consideration, right, wrong, or indifferent, that teams have to make when they make decisions like this.
Yeah, it is. It's a consideration, but still, if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and you look at it, look, if Cam's on the market right now, you still can't bring him into your facility. You still can't really look at him with your own doctors in your place, in your environment. So still the risk, you're still taking on all the risk, although the reward could be tremendous, and it could put one of your competitors in a very uncomfortable situation like you're talking about. So look, this is just business, man. I mean, that's what this is, and this is business in a very unique time for the NFL, and it's not good for Cam. I get it. I know it was all heading this way, but this is how front offices think, man. They are going to protect themselves first, and that is something that players have to. They just have to accept, and it's not good, but that's just the way business is done a lot of times.
But I have to leave it there because Magic Johnson is waiting. 41 years ago today, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird played a game that started one of the greatest rivalries in the history of sports.